Welcome to our first of a new, very exciting series brought to you by our good friends over at Realty Co. The State of Real Estate. I like that name. Briggs, who came up with that name?
I think you have to give credit to Eric Zollinger, our chief customer officer, actually.
I think it's very good. It's very timely. We have a great panel here. Everyone, Danielle, can we go over one very hot topic before we start?
Yes, if it has anything to do with the Yankees, I don't want to hear it.
No, it doesn't. It's you specific because I've had 3 people ask me this in different parts of the country. Does your last name pronunciation change based on the part of the country someone's in?
Listen, I will tell you this, and maybe this will be helpful. No one ever gets it right. The only place that they get it right out of the gate was 2 weeks ago when I was in Italy. Everybody was like, Garofalo.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, great, I feel at home.
You were at home.
Yeah, I was at home
Danielle's
among my people.
Italian, so she felt at home. But now, because I hear you introduced around the country, because you speak at broker events, at real estate events, and I've heard 4 different ways to pronounce your last name now. So I thought, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The real hot topic everyone wants to know. How the heck do you say Garofalo?
We set the record straight. It's Garofalo, and the spelling is always wrong. Is always coming out wrong as well. And I'll tell you an easy way to remember that. So it's Garofalo, Garofalo, and so you can remember that of like Ao, like that's my people. Like just remember it. It's not it's not really a long last name. It's that, but you'll never forget it now. Ao.
Okay. So now that we've cleared up that very critical topic in real estate, we can move on to our 2 other guests, Kirsten Jordan, who people sometimes call Kristen. I have to do this whole name thing now.
I know. Well,
I
have a little sizzle reel of some of my appearances on television, and it's like, hey, here's Kristen Jordan, Kirsten Jordan, Carrie, Kirst. It's like KJ, because that's all they can do. But when I was born, my name was supposed to be Kirsten. Which is like Kirsten, and let's just say my husband still hasn't gotten it right because he's Italian.
Well,
Danielle,
that's our
so
people.
it's like Kirsten. Where is the Kirsten? It's great. So here we are.
That's great.
Here we are.
Look at that. And rounding out with a name that's very easy to pronounce for everyone at home, Briggs Elwell.
I have gotten 2
Co-founder.
mix-ups in my life. People call me Bridges, which is very common mistake.
Bridges. No, they don't.
I also get Yule from the To Kill a Mockingbird, which makes absolutely no sense. But I've gotten Yule.
Okay.
That
I was
I
going to
would
ask
never
you if
have
you were
gotten.
related to Carrie Elwell, who was in Mission Impossible and a bunch of other really great movies.
I am not. Unfortunately,
All right.
no.
Well, that's how people
I get
can remember it, too,
Harbor a
for
lot
Mission
on
Impossible.
me, which is weird because there's no like R before the.
You get Haber too. You get Haber.
Yeah, someone
We'll
just
say
did that.
Haber.
Someone when I think it was Jared James just mispronounced my name that way, which is fine. But yes.
Everyone's moving
All right.
too
Well, now that
fast.
we've covered all that, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Really important stuff. Really great
we
talking
got,
to you
we
guys
got a lot
today.
on the way. All right, let's jump in, guys. So I want to know first, just to kick this off, around the country when we think about the real estate market right now, the state of real estate, New York Mets or New York Knicks? Danielle.
I just knew it was coming. Like I said, as a Yankee fan, I'm like contractually obligated to not mention the New York Mets. I'm sorry.
Did you just say New York Mets?
Yeah, the New York
well,
Mets.
New York Mets.
we'll see that till later in the show.
Meet
So
the
later on
Mets,
in the show,
meet the Mets.
step right up. So yeah, I mean, for me, it'll be interesting to hear how everybody else thinks, but it's in my opinion, Knicks market. I will again never give the Mets any credit for it, but it's not flashy. This is total Knicks market right here. Is anybody agreeing with me on that, or are you going with the Mets?
Completely agree. I've got nothing else other than agree.
I'm in agreement as well. I mean, the market is. We were just talking about this before. I think New York is especially interesting, but the rest of the markets around the country is. I mean, it's totally fascinating to just see how different everything is in different places. It's so localized right now.
Okay, but hear me out on this. Let's say it's the Knicks, but with a caveat that I think it's
Here it comes.
unfairly rigged to be the Knicks. Meaning, for sellers, it's the Knicks, but for buyers, it's the Mets. And the reasons behind that are the unfortunate imbalance in supply that we find around the country. And that it's not, in a more healthy market, it probably would be neither. Whereas you'd have like a middle road where you have plenty of transaction volume, but you have, the buyers have choice and some ability here, which they don't have in so many markets around the country. And a lot of it is just because of policy, where around the country, municipalities have used, zoning restrictions and other tools of government that have inadvertently reduced our supply so much that we don't have enough, and that has helped to drive up prices to really, really, really high levels. It's not like it was in, I think, 2008, where you had this crash of people buying with no credit. It's not like that. It's a different kind of a crisis, but it still is a housing crisis. If people get shut out from buying homes, you're losing an opportunity to create generational wealth for the next generation of buyer. First-time buyers, the average age of a first-time buyer keeps going higher and higher and higher. I don't think that's good.
Well, the other thing, however, though, is that it's not just about supply. It's also the fact that the actual cost of the home, because of the mortgage rates coupled with the fact that all the other costs have gone up, it's not just that rates are higher, because rates are higher for people, which if you look at when the way that rates were, which is the last time we had a decade of sub 5% mortgage rates, was the 1950s. So effectively, we created a scenario where rates are now at a point where, if you actually look at it from like an affordability trajectory, coming down to the fives, in addition to the fact that the cost of insurance has gone up, the cost of construction, the cost of labor, everything is just higher, in addition to the fact that a lot of people's mortgages are like 40% more than they would be before. So it's or even, for some people it's like, way more, like 60% more. And that's just, for a lot of people, I think, just really difficult, because people don't save like they used to. The cost of living is more expensive. So I think it's like a layered conversation, because the reality is inventory is starting to come back in some parts of the country because the fact that prices have gotten so high, right? And people have gotten so greedy. So it's really, the issue for us is, like, as New Yorkers, in New York City, we were just talking about before, appreciation's basically flat on a lot of the inventory, except for the really hot stuff like the West Village and stuff like that, or maybe prime Upper East Side.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
Appreciation?
go
What?
ahead.
Well, I was just
Appreciation.
going to say, when you look
What
back,
exactly? What?
the whole conversation.
No, I think in my seat here where I am, one of the kind of advantages from working, I work in markets from Hawaii to New York and about everywhere in between. It kind of reminds you that there is no such thing as one housing market, right? Like, every city has its own drivers, its own inventory story, its own behavior. And I think for the last couple of years, that question has been, when will rates come down? And I think the better question today, going forward, is how do you make the smart decisions in the market that's in front of you? I think that's kind of like what my clients are really, advising on, is how do you make the smart decision with this market that's right here in front of you?
So we, Mauricio and I did a podcast interview, which we're about to release. I see we have some agents here from Montana joining us, and so we interviewed the governor of Montana, Greg Gianforte, and he talked about how in Montana, starting in 2022, so this is like well before affordability was like a cool buzzword, like in government or politics, he rezoned the cities of Montana. So the question was, like, Montana, when you think of Montana, you think of like open land, right? Like the rolling hills, and you don't want to like ruin the pristine quality of that and change the character of Montana. So instead, what the governor did was he said, listen, we have so many people coming here, it's becoming so much more expensive. We're going to build, but he did it in the cities. So he changed the local zoning requirements at the state level and opened up the cities for much more development than they had before. And the result is Montana is way more affordable and has kept their costs down more than any other state in the union. They actually call it the Montana Miracle. And there's more in the podcast. I don't want to sort of give it all away, but there are, like, I think there have been some governors out there that have taken an interesting approach, and it is bipartisan. So, like, our first guest, for example, was the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. who also is working on affordability right now in his own state with something called the Build Plan. And I feel like, and if you've read Abundance, by the way, a great book about, which is sort of geared for people on the political left, how they've had like a self-own on affordability because their own policies have helped to create in blue states affordability crises, and how you sort of work around that and solve for that. So there's a lot happening with affordability right now, but we're severely behind around the country, and you worry about what this looks like in 2, 3, 4 years from now if it doesn't get addressed now, because there's like a lag. It's not like you make a change in the next day, right? It takes time to build, as it is in this country.
Well, in New York, you're at the bottom of a lag because development from a net units coming online standpoint started to drop in 2018, 2019. And then when you got rid of 421A, you ended up with far less development, and that leads to, effectively an absolute balloon in rents. And clearly
now,
that's
right. And then you decoupled commissions. And now you're going to add in this potential pied-à-terre tax, and people wanting to make sure they're going to rent to somebody who potentially is a New Yorker, and then the people who aren't New Yorkers are probably going to pay a little extra rent because of the fact that they need to subsidize the pied-à-terre tax. I mean, it's a lot going on. But what I actually think is the other side of the coin here on this idea of rezoning and bringing people into cities is effectively from a community building perspective, and from a incorporating, because remember, people are also living longer and they're healthier up into like 70s and 80s. My grandfather's 99. He's still living alone and lives in like smaller knit community in Florida, actually. And I actually think from like a longevity perspective and a health perspective, the idea of having these multi-families in these cities where people can live together without having to go into these like retirement homes or go into these like old folks homes that are like, not necessarily structured to build a ton of community, or like build a kind of community where they're actually with other people of other generations at the same time, is actually super positive just from like a net perspective, not like leaving politics aside and leaving, affordability aside, but like this idea that they can all live together, I think is like really, really great.
Jason, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So I think walkability and livability are going to be more important than ever in planned communities. So, but not just planning for residential. So you look at like the Florida model as an example. So you have a lot of like planned communities, obviously across the state. But I think the future of those, I think, is going to be built in with mixed use development. So you can walk to the grocery store, shopping, retail, etc., and not like drive everywhere. First of all, the roads are too in areas that are growing. Like say like the southeast coast of Florida, the roads can't handle the increased car traffic anyway.
Yep.
But the way you solve for that is not to build more roads; it's to change the way you master plan. And even right now, I'm in Sag Harbor this summer, but I don't use my car. Like I'm able to walk into the town, and like the quality of life, like the difference is staggering. Just to be able to not drive everywhere when you're outside of like a city like Manhattan, right, where you can just take mass transit. And I think that for seniors, that's going to be. I think the big change for seniors, people are living longer, and I think for seniors, what's going to be interesting about their mobility in the future, and that I don't think has been baked into the cake, are things like autonomous driving to take them around. Because if you can't drive, but suddenly your car can take you to the doctor's office, I think that's going to be a big boon. And the second thing is, the more every study shows, the more like you walk or play like racket sports as you're older, like your mind, it like extends your years of life. And as we have like an older population, because people are living longer, I think you have to plan for that future. And I think livability, walkability, sustainability is all part of that.
Well, I think oh God, I'm sorry.
No, well, just anecdotally, both of my parents who are divorced and have separate spouses, but my mom's 70. My dad's going to be turning 80 shortly. He lives in Minnesota, and Minneapolis has moved into multifamily. He has an apartment in a beautiful condominium building where there's community within the condominium building, and that's one of the reasons why he moved there. So community building activities, all of that. And then my parents live in a townhome community in Westchester, where I actually bought a townhome next to them, because even though like everybody else is way older than me, the community aspect and how much it's done for them from the perspective of even just like the neighborhood watch, and that has made such a difference in their lives, and it takes a burden off of the of me, because remember, as the oldest child, these aging parents, it's actually really important. So anyway, Danielle, I cut you off.
No. That was really that was a great story, because I think for years we have all talked about like location, and I think I would add livability to that now, because a larger home that's far out is not always viewed as better anymore. I think people are willing to trade a little square footage for less time in the car, to like Jason's point, where almost time becomes the most valuable amenity that a neighborhood can have too, because what people aren't buying is just those four walls of their new home. They're buying what happens outside the front door. I mean, that's always been New York, but that's also more out in the burbs as well now.
A bit of a controversial take on that, though, is with autonomous driving. I agree. Actually, Jason, I was speaking to my wife about it this morning. The fact that traffic should theoretically go down in a relatively short period of time, 10 to 15 years, because the cars are soon going to be talking to each other, right? If you think about it, 5 years ago, cars weren't driving us. Now they're driving us, and in another 5 years, they're talking to each other. Meaning that if this car goes right, this one, is ready to go right. And that leads to less traffic. Knowing from a planning standpoint that you're going to have that ability in a relatively short period of time, here's my relatively controversial question. Why should a group that is not necessarily working be living in a market, in an area where it is professional work that is happening, right? So like downtown, financial district, or midtown, for example, which are driven almost entirely by business. The reality is that the ones that are working there, wanting to walk there, if you're trying to solve a supply problem and you can access good supply elsewhere, it leads me to think that it makes more sense to be investing in the outer boroughs than it would be in the center of the city, because you can only go so high, right?
Hey, Briggs, you know what? Let me tell you where the traffic is going to come from. It's going to come from me, because I am not getting in one of those. I've seen Minority Report. I'm not getting in one of those. I will drive myself. I will ride a skateboard right now before I get in one of those. So I'll be the traffic.
I took one of those autonomous. I drove from Sag Harbor to Manhattan 2 days ago, and I never touched the steering wheel.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
3.5
I did
hours.
that in Florida from
It's a wild
Vero
thing.
Beach to Orlando, and I can tell you, I did not want to like it. I loved it. So Danielle, I guarantee you will be swayed.
Listen,
Right.
I know I'll like it, but the trust factor, for right now, I'm one of those people that this scares the life out of me. And I
They
jump
said the
out of
same
planes
thing about
and stuff,
email,
so
by
that's
the way.
right. It's
Exactly,
it's
email.
Instead of sending your faxes.
Yeah, well, my faxes.
Danielle still has a fax machine.
I remember when
I
Dan-
do.
office.
I still would.
With the
The
wax
tech
paper.
person. Yeah. Yeah.
So
oh my
keeping it
God.
on real estate for a second, 10-year yield is sniffing 4.6%, very, very close. It actually was just at 4.98. 4.598. What are everyone's thoughts in regards to what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months? Just broad based, not, we're obviously all largely tied to New York City as a market, but what are everyone's thoughts in regards to where it's going? We clearly have a new Fed chair. Inventory is fluctuating. Would love to get some projections about the next, 6 to 12 months.
Well, I'll just go very quickly. Yes, interest rates influence the market, but I don't think they define it. Jobs, wealth creation, inventory, consumer confidence, I think they all matter too. So I think I don't think 2026 becomes a boom or a bust. It should just be interesting to see the reaction right out of the gate, and especially from all of you who are agents right on the ground, and hearing it daily from your clients.
I worry more about recession than higher rates at this point. Not that there would be one in 2026 necessarily, but I do worry that a combination of sort of a pullback in, say, like the chip sector and the sort of the stock market, which always, these things come in cycles. We know these runs never last forever. Coupled with sort of the volatility out of Washington, the market has sort of done a good job, I think, of not overreacting to every move with Iran. And if you look at the prices, like oil it's not like oil spiked to like $85 today. It's well under that. It's well under 80 still. Last time I looked. In 2 days from now, the ceasefire could be back on, and the 10-year will start to trickle back down. But if it doesn't, the Fed's hands are going to be tied, and there's no way they're going to be able to lower rates. They may have to go the other way, which I think would hurt.
Yeah, I think right now there's more of a chance that it's going to go up than it's going to go down, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I will tell you a piece I was talking to a banker about, which I've had my concerns about relatively to the luxury market. We all know a lot of people that took IOs at 2 to 2.5% during COVID, and those are going to start to burn off at the end of next year to 2028 because a lot of people were either at a 7 or a 10-year.
Yeah.
The 5s, were a lower percentage. 7 was kind of the peak. And I'm really curious to see what happens to that in the luxury space, because the reality is that a lot of those buyers are going to have to sell because they can't handle the balloon payments. And the banks were so keen to issue them. It's not like some massive portion of the marketplace, but I can tell you places, that are, let's say Colorado and the ski mountains, where somebody just said, you know what, price is right. I'm buying, it's 2020 and this is a great deal. I'm going to hit a 2.25% rate. They're now going to be hit with principal and going up to 5.5%, potentially 6%. That's a big reset. So I'm curious to see what happens with that next year.
I also think what'll be really interesting to see, Briggs, is going to also be what is the resale value of those homes, and did they buy at the right moment? Because there is a world where some of these, the truly ultra luxury parts of, like Park City. I mean, those places, like, they're still appreciating because you've got the Texans, you've got, you have multiple streams of demand going into those areas. What I think is actually really interesting, because there's this whole looming stock market conversation, but then there's this whole, like, we've scratched the surface on AI, what we're seeing in San Francisco. I have, Jason, I'm sure you feel the same way. I have all these broker friends in San Francisco who are just like, this is insane. It is so insane.
Yep.
And to think that we have no connection to them anywhere else in the country, and we're not going to see any of that come to us is crazy. So then you say, like, okay, obviously there's going to have to be a correction. I don't know if the big correction is quite yet, or if it's something that's going to come from another factor that we're not anticipating, while AI continues to disrupt and inflate things just because of the sheer, just like, efficiency, people having to learn about it, and then the people who are making money off of AI, and then the whole data center scenario situation that's going on. So I actually, while I'd like to be conservative about the future of things, I still think we're in like this weirdly, bizarrely uncharted territory that's not immune to having a correction, but it's also like, I think there's demand that I think, even for example, Jason and I were joking with New Yorkers, it's going to be coming to the super, super prime product because that's what these people are going to be buying. And then will the ships rise a little bit, just because we've experienced a significant period in New York City of no appreciation of a lot of these real estate assets, which is also tied to the fact that it costs so much more to carry this stuff than it ever did before. Not just, insurance, taxes. Now we got another tax, cost of labor, all the things.
Please don't say tax again. I don't need a third tax.
Tax. But I don't know. I think,
Jason, what do you think in regards to where the market's going with the rates?
So I think we have a K-shaped economy. I think ultra luxury, unfortunately, we have a K-shaped economy, which I don't think is good, but I think it's where we're at. So I think that the luxury market keeps on humming away. Someone's typing vigorously in my ears.
It's vigorous typing. Is that you,
sorry,
Danielle?
I had a response.
I was angry. I was like, oh my god, it was like someone's angry.
We are in your keyboard.
The keyboard.
Inside
Yeah,
of you.
I was like reacting.
Your
to it,
jail cell
pinging
and your
my
keyboard,
head.
I feel so united with. That's all I have to say.
Wow.
Sorry, I had a response quick.
Yeah, it's quick, but that was. I don't want to be the receiver of that.
Did that
Was it all
sound
caps?
okay?
Tell us. Was it all caps? Tell us.
No.
Tell us.
That's great.
Next time, just send a fax.
Listen, I'm Italian, so they're
Should
always
have,
in
like,
caps.
My Whoop
They're-
heart rate just
That
went
was
up
like
to
that
like
cat meme.
120. I don't know.
Did that person pronounce your last
Yes,
name as
they-
Garofalo?
They were a Mets fan. That's really what, that was the response.
Garofalo.
Sorry.
Be
Sorry.
careful.
Lord.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
back to the
God.
market. So look,
Yeah.
K-shape economy. I do think though that especially for first-time buyers, it's very hard. It's very expensive. It's not just the mortgage. It's you look in states like Florida where insurance costs have gone up dramatically.
Skyrocketed.
You know, the closing costs in other states, like you look at the taxes associated with buying in New York City, just as an example. It's hard, and we're making it hard. All these things are accretive to making it harder and harder to buy. And you know, I worry about when states pull gimmicks. State of Florida, for example, right now there's a ballot proposal to they're moving to eliminate the property taxes, not eliminate them in full, but very big exemptions if you are a Florida resident, which I know sounds great if you own property there, which I do. I have a home in Boca Raton. The problem though is it is going to, on the back end, as property taxes drop, prices also go up, and like it just makes it harder for people to buy homes. And so I just I worry about less and less people owning. And if you look throughout history, when you have those periods of less people owning and renting, they miss out on huge moves. Now, no one knows when they come and where they come, but generational wealth opportunities get lost. And I think that I do worry about this generation of people in their 20s, early 30s right now who are priced out of the market until they're 40 to 50, and then they've missed all of those years of potential wealth gains.
But also, Jason, is that it's the stabilization against inflation. That's the problem.
Right.
It's
Correct.
like you are not, yes, are you building wealth? Sure. If everything appreciates and you're lucky and you sell at the right time, fine. If you did a principal and interest mortgage, great. But the reality is it's the people who, as everything gets more expensive, like rents in New York City, rents outside of the city, they are just subject to everything inflation. Right? And
Right.
they don't ever get that. And they don't get the forced savings. Because I think, let's talk about, I think, Jason, you and I mean, my generation, they don't save enough. And so
Right.
they need these fixed ways of fixing, savings, because they're not just going to necessarily set up their 401k right or their IRA or all that, because a lot of people don't even know how to do that. And that's not even necessarily the perfect place to be truly building wealth, right? If you're really trying to make the real gains. So I think that there's so many elements to it. And I think what people don't realize is you might not make a ton of money on your home, especially since a lot of us move before we're able to capitalize on appreciation, or we have to leave or sell before or at the wrong time. But it's that stabilizing your costs for long periods of time so you can put money away into other things or potentially make other investments. That's huge. And a lot of my friends personally, they didn't capitalize on that stuff. And now it's too expensive, especially New Yorkers with families. It's
Yeah.
so expensive to buy the right size home that they get stuck renting. And these are rich people.
Yeah.
This isn't just people that you're saying, oh, they can't afford it. It's like, no, they don't want to tie $3 million up in an apartment because that's the down payment to get the apartment that they want. And so then they take themselves out of the purchase cycle, which
Right.
then hurts us. And we're stuck here renting out these really nice apartments to people.
And I don't
Well, you know
think
what
we
another
talk about
X
this.
factor- Oh, go ahead.
I don't think we talk about this enough, but the 30-year fixed as a financial instrument is probably got to be the greatest financial instrument that of the last 100 years. You get all of the benefit, the fixed rate, right? Like your rent goes up every year, but your payment, that's fixed, right? You get all the benefit and none of the downside, 'cause the downside goes to the bank. So if interest rates go down, you can refinance and get the lower rate. But if interest rates go up, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
But what
It really
Kristen's
is an
saying
amazing product.
It is an incredible product, but what Kristen is saying is the fact that not everybody, even wealthy families, have the funds to qualify to get into those, that benefit, right? I
Right.
mean, the cost of a down payment, the the reality of the cost of the carry of the mortgage, the qualification for the mortgage. It's not not everybody gets that opportunity, it's a complicated topic.
Well, and this brings us into this very expensive rents. Sorry, Danielle. I have one rental. I have one rental that's $50,000 a month right now, and it's my most active listing.
Yeah, someone who's in our live stream just sent me a text message and asked about the impact that this has on the luxury New York City rental market, which is actually a good point. So like, it is insane. We just did a rental for like $97,000 a month for someone, and we almost lost it to someone else who was bidding on it. Like the high end rental market is. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, there's multiple reasons why.
Yeah, a lot of reasons.
Number one reason is people are making so much money on their money. And the more money you have, the more money you're making on your money because you know how to invest it. The number two thing is rich people that are really rich, they don't want to deal with a tenant, so they don't even put their place in the market. They just leave it empty. So you're lucky if somebody actually wants to list their place and rent it because it means that for some reason they're tied to actually doing that. And then the third thing is that a lot of the time it's like those ones actually are nice enough that they get scooped up because the financials make so much sense when you're that wealthy to rent instead of buy because you're not paying for the rest of it. So somebody to actually buy that apartment, if they actually even financed it, would be hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, right, Jason?
Right.
It'd be like,
right.
Correct.
And something else that I'm seeing right now in New York, which I've never seen before, and it's because of the FAIR Act. I have someone who's renovating their penthouse, and they just needed a place for 1 year. So, budget up to $25,000 a month. You figure, okay, no problem, right? We lost 3 apartments because the landlord did not want to rent for 1 year and had other offers lower than us, but for 2 years. And why?
They'd have to pay the fee twice.
Exactly.
Which is exactly why the FAIR Act should never have, shouldn't exist.
That's right. That's right. And
Danielle, I cut you off. Big time.
No. I actually feel bad I didn't push you people out and get my point into a little while ago. It doesn't sound like it makes sense now. But going back to what you mentioned, Jason, about people not getting into the market for much later, that also we're forgetting this kind of X factor that AI has changed jobs so much for people in their 20s and their 30s that the job that they were working toward or the job that they were in school for, that job is gone. And it's not like just a normal cycle of laying off and hiring. That job is never coming back. So that whole, people getting into the market later and later, it might be later because they can't keep that stability in order to save the money to get into the market. So to me, this, AI, yes, Kirsten just mentioned a little while ago, we are in the infancy. But I think we're in the infancy of also what it's going to mean to the job market for long term and how the ripple effect that will happen of people buying.
That's a perfect segue to AI in the agents, in the agent industry. I will add the Kirsten, the one piece on rents going up. The pied-à-terre tax, there's not one way you cannot dispute it, will increase rents because what is happening now is that the international wealthy buyer is saying, you know what? I don't want to be exposed to these theoreticals and we don't know what's next. And they have gobs of money, so they jump into the rental pool, which is already such a low, the volume that exists there in the inventory is non-existent. I remember when I was at Related, the idea of a $15,000 rental apartment was like, holy cow. Today, $15,000 gets you a 2-bedroom downtown with 1,100 square feet. And that is because of the fact that inventory is not being built and policy is not supporting reducing it in any way. And the problem is that trickles all the way down because all of a sudden that $3,500 studio is now a $5,000 studio, and it just keeps going and going and going. But routing back to the AI component, let's give all of our feedback on how AI is going to impact specifically the brokerage industry. I'm actually really curious because the reality is that I've heard a lot of different takes from different brokerage CEOs around the country. Some are saying it's not going to do anything. Others are saying it's going to completely change it. But I'd be curious what everyone thinks.
I don't think AI is ever going to I mean, there's always this like replacement of real estate agents that everyone tries to do. At a certain point, the next piece of technology is always going to replace a real estate agent. And AI is not going to replace great real estate agents. It replaces the part of the job that never required human expertise in the first place. That to me is the biggest value. It's not creating kind of social media or an email. It just gives agents more time to do what only people can do, which is build relationships and negotiate deals and advise clients. Consumers still want trust, so I don't think that I'm not in the camp where it's going to replace real estate agents.
Agreed.
I stand firm in that too, right here in the basement. I stand no, it's not the basement, but it looks like it.
It also won't replace people who type violently on their keyboards.
No.
AI
My
would
heart
never
rate
do
is
that.
still up.
So
AI could never replace the email I just sent. Just want you to know.
yeah. Go ahead,
know,
Jason.
Like the efficiencies that it will create in the future are remarkable. I mean, like some people know, I silence my phone from I start silencing from 9:30 p.m. to sometimes 8 a.m. I'm very disciplined about silencing my phone and creating time. But I have an AI agent that I created using Claude Code, and when if an important email comes, it will be reading my emails when my phone is silenced, and if I get an important email, it'll alert me, or an important text message. So, and then there are sometimes this is something I want to jump on, and it might be 10:15, and I wouldn't have seen it till the next morning. There are these really interesting ways that you can create efficiency, even just for your workflow, so creating mailing lists, a presentation, it's going to 10x from here. We're just in the very, very, very early days of moving from AI chat to agentic AI, where it's actually working for you. And the best agents will figure that out and will incorporate it into their own workflows and master it. So the AI is working for you. You're not working for the AI. The difference.
And I think that what people are doing in general, not just real estate agents, they're asking AI to think for them instead of asking to help you better. So the quality of output, it still depends on the quality of the person using it.
Right.
And to me, I see that AI can answer any question you ask it, right? It can never replace trust. And so I think that, when agents ask it to do that, that's when you're going to start getting into issues. It should never be thinking for you. It should always be the best assistant the world has ever seen.
Well, I personally think from I'm not using AI as much as I need to be, and that's actually a big focus for my team going forward from the efficiency perspective, exactly like Jason's talking about. My husband's really deep in it, and I'm learning so much just from listening to what he's doing. But there's a layer where it's very similar in so many ways to social media, where, if you didn't adopt it, you're screwed now. Basically, It's something that you needed to do. You could have done it as early, you could have been the early adopter like Ryan Serhant, where he was posting on whatever the heck it was, and you've got the photos of him on his Vespa with Amelia from 2005. I don't know, working it. But the later you get into the game, you don't get to start the compounding interest until you start, right?
Danielle had a Friendster account.
I did. I had
And
Friendster.
she had
I
her
am
band on
that
your
old.
MySpace
I was a
page.
brunette then too. I always like to say that, but I was a
True.
brunette back in the Friendster days. It was no joke. I mean,
And
it was,
So it's
MySpace.
the amplification.
Right,
It's
big
the amplification,
MySpace.
and it's you have to own it. You have to be part of it. And you're right, Danielle. It's never going to replace trust. But if you don't leverage it the same way, if you don't, or hire an assistant when you start getting good, and if you don't start creating systems for your business, if you don't start creating templates, if you don't start doing actual marketing, if you don't start doing all of the things, you just miss out on the compounding interest of those early days of figuring it out, because there's just no ignoring it. You just can't pretend it's not there unless you really want to operate. We have those 5 agents that we all know that are doing business in the way that they've always done business and still do really, really well.
Yes,
But someday even them will age out, feet first from the business, and then the rest of us that have been hustling, building out our AI agents and making sure that we can proofread our mailing lists and our marketing, hopefully we'll benefit from it.
And the agents who I think are afraid, because they're, to your point, there's agents who are just going to do it the way they've always done it, and they're, whatever. tech has always changed the way real estate is done. Go back to my friend the fax machine, email, all of those things. It's always changed the way that real estate is done, but it's never changed why people need a Jason, a Kirsten, like as a trusted advisor. It's never going to change that. So I think when people have, like when I sit in front of people, and the reason why I'll never forget when I first started, I was, digital marketing. I was, back in the beginning of all of this. I had an agent come up to me and like stick their finger in my face and be like, I am never getting on Facebook. I was like, okay. But what it isn't going to do, and this is why people kind of put a hold of it, they're afraid either to use it, because they think they're building the thing that's going to replace them. AI is great at scaling efficiency, but people are better at building relationships. So that is, for me, it's not like your value is not in typing like I was just doing to have the answer first. Literally, it's knowing which answer matters, and a human can only do that, not AI. So
I agree with everybody. There were comments in the chat. One was, will it replace agents? The other is, will they actually benefit, which we've summarized a lot of. I like to use two different analogies on the AI tech front. One is that the toll booth industry, right? Mechanics completely got rid of that entire industry. And it's because of the fact that the toll booth is now a robot. You still need toll booths because they monitor cars going in and out. But real estate is not a toll booth at the end of the day, right? You are opening literally a door for somebody to walk in a house, but they have a trust factor that is necessary to actually pursue moving into a home. I think at the very low price points and in the investment space, there is a world where an agent theoretically is not a part of the equation, right? Super high volume investing, possible that is not the case. But for the majority of transactions in the United States, an agent is always going to be necessary because look at doctors, right? Doctors are using AI and doctors are using robotics to do surgery constantly. But at the end of the day, there is still a human at the end that is prescribing which surgery they need. And that is the trust factor that an agent provides to a consumer on, is this home a good deal? Is this neighborhood a good, good place for my family? So I think that the summary I will give is that there will be a shrinkage in agent count, in my opinion. I think the agents that utilize technology are going to thrive more. Good agents are still going to be good agents, but I think there will probably be the ability that the top agents can do more volume than than they were able to before. And so with technology, I think there will probably be a small shrinking of the industry, but most agents will end up making more money.
Yeah, and there's a two-part question in the chat. AI won't replace any agents, and all agents will benefit from AI. Yeah, I think I mean there may be a part of this where we see AI, supporting the human. I seriously do not think, I mean, every time there's a new piece of technology that comes out, scaling up the internet, even when you hear people talk about that, the consumer isn't hiring agents because they lack the information. They hire an agent because they want the confidence and they want the experience. So all agents can benefit in that regard because you have information very quickly at your fingertips, but your judgment is becoming a premium. That's really what it is. Information becomes a commodity and judgment becomes a premium. So in that respect, yes.
You are legitimately an advisor.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the 45-minute mark, so we're coming to the end here. So we have our last segment, which we called The Reality Is. Danielle and I had a wager going into this live stream. How many times would Briggs Elwell say the words "the reality is"?
Did he hit it 5? Did he hit it 5?
No, he was only 2. So the under wins today. So for those who were betting on this on the Poly market, the line was set at 5 and he did it 2. So I have to.
I was just so scared of Danielle's text message that she was sending to whoever that was.
Hey, you know what? I just want to know something.
Threw everyone
Who else
off.
was one of you people texting? I heard it. I heard another keyboard here, so I don't know how.
Oh, it was definitely me. I keyboarded a couple of things. I had to.
Kirsten, that's where we are today.
Very
so
soft
that's how
over here.
I will.
No, but I
own
was
up to it.
really smashing.
You were.
Those letters.
Well,
there.
thank you everyone for joining on our inaugural live stream, State of the Real Estate Market. Next one coming up soon. Stay tuned for more lively, relevant, banter and conversation, the information that you need that you can only get right here. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Thank
us
you, guys.
today.
Great to see everyone.
Have a good one.
Guys.